They simply defy the recruiting rankings. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down every schedule in the Power 5. We have now made our way through the Big Ten. Our last stop at Camp Randall Stadium in Madison, Wisconsin with the Badgers, the Big Ten Western Division champions once again in 2019. Ever since the Big Ten split into divisions, first the leaders and the legends, now the East and the West, the Western Division championship has gone through Bucky Badger. Wisconsin has been that tough and that consistent. Not elite, but consider that their recruited classes are typically in the 25 to 40 range in the nation, and they produce top 10 to 15 teams year after year after year after year. 10-2 in the regular season in 2019. Lost the Big Ten championship game to Ohio State. 2 of their 3 losses during the season before losing an excruciating Rose Bowl to Oregon 28-27 on a couple mistakes there by the Badgers. All right, let's look to 2020. Coming off again, 10-2 regular season in 2019. I love the scheduling move by the Big Ten in Week 1. This Indiana game is not just a conference game in Week 1, it's a Friday night affair. So the eyes of college football will be on Madison, Wisconsin, with a tough Indiana team coming in after an 8-4 season. So I rate that as a toss-up of sorts, and let me explain this real quick. The wins are almost guaranteed, almost, no such thing, guaranteed wins, what we expect to be a 90 to 95% certainty of a win. No guaranteed losses for this Wisconsin team. Of course, they're just too good. But the T is for toss-up, not necessarily a 50-50 toss-up. Not in the classic sense of the word, but at least a reasonable chance for each team to win the game. Indiana comes in again after an 8-win season with a shot to win at Wisconsin. Southern Illinois, then Appalachian State. Tricky game here for Wisconsin, taking on the class of the Sun Belt. App State at home. Mark it down. This is an interesting spot for Wisconsin, a difficult one, especially with this run coming up here. Going into late September, early October, Michigan on the road. Of course, the Badgers just completely bludgeoned the Wolverines at home last year, but they got blasted at Michigan 2 years ago. Then they've got Notre Dame, great game, must-see at Lambeau Field. So that's not a home game necessarily for Wisconsin, but closer to home for them playing in Milwaukee at Lambeau Field. Or at Green Bay at Lambeau Field. Minnesota at home, of course, Wisconsin and Minnesota, the big showdown for the division championship, and usually the last game of the season. So the Big Ten mixing things up. I don't know why. They are moving the Wisconsin-Minnesota date off the last regular season weekend, rivalry weekend. Now becomes a October matchup with the Golden Gophers, and of course, Wisconsin won that game big in taking the Western Division. But that sequence right there, starting with App State and then going into Big Ten play at Michigan, Notre Dame, and Minnesota at home is very difficult for Wisconsin, considering maybe not worst case scenario, but worst reasonable case scenario would be Wisconsin, let's say, losing 2 of these 3 and then losing possibly to either App State or Indiana. They would enter the Maryland game on the road at 3-3. It's certainly likely or possible. All right, then it gets mighty easier from there with no real tough contests for the remainder of the season until we get near the end. Maryland on the road, Illinois at home, dates at Northwestern and Purdue. Of course, Illinois was able to knock out Wisconsin. Shocking 31-point underdog wins at the gun on the late second field goal. So Wisconsin's going to have Illinois at home. You would expect them to get their revenge. Dates at Northwestern and what we expect to be an improved Purdue team and Northwestern as well. Pat Fitzgerald's not used to going 3-9, and Northwestern is typically a bowl team, if not a Big Ten Western Division contender, as they were in 2018 in winning the division at 8-1. Nebraska still hasn't gotten off the deck. We will see if this is the year for Scott Frost and company. They're at Madison to take on Wisconsin, and then this could decide the Big Ten Western Division. Wisconsin at Iowa, now the last game of the regular season. very interesting on that final weekend of the season, Wisconsin-Iowa. So the Western Division games for Wisconsin loaded toward the back end, except for the date against Minnesota. This is a difficult schedule, considering Notre Dame and App State for Wisconsin among the 3 non-conference dates. They draw Indiana, Michigan, and Maryland out of the Big Ten Eastern Division for Wisconsin. I've got the Badgers going 7-2 in the Big Ten, 9-3 overall against this schedule, which again, as we go later into the spring and summer, we're going to rank all the schedules in the Power 5. We'll see where this one stacks up. We've completed the Big Ten. Check out all the videos. We will move on to another conference next, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, give us your record projection on Wisconsin football for 2020. And then, of course, share the videos on social media and subscribe so you can get the notifications on our live streams that come your way multiple times each week right here at the Voice of College Football.